Biljana brought back a lot of memories of Brunenberg. I was in John Gary's first class there, studying Pound's cantos, and I apologize for this thing hanging here all this time while you're reading, but we don't know what to do, so there it is. Ambiguous gifts, truthy tricks, practical dreams, that's the notion I have here. Bloomsday, aren't we lucky? I mean, I love Bloomsday. My original plan was to do, I think it's 11 poems, yep. Introductory verses, apology, objection, violation, 3 ekphrastic puzzles, which cover the 19 teens, 20s, and 30s, and then a sequence called Pentamerous Man Ray, based on some of his Paris photographs. But you're so nice to be here with the banquet looming, so I'm going to definitely cut some things here. Oh, that's not supposed to be up yet. Sorry. You didn't see that. I'm beginning with a poem under the heading Apology, which was linked by Jennifer. And by the way, Jennifer and all our French hosts, thank you very much. And Jean-Yves, you've been fantastic. Thank you. So this is under the heading Apology, and I don't need to extend it, but you'll see why I begin with this. The title is Don't Know Much About the French I Took. And the title and part of line 2 are from Wonderful World, recorded by Sam Cooke. I silently disapproved when they said, "Let's go French, Miss Buckshaw," though I do know that I love you for trying, even with your embarrassing Deep South pronunciation to get me to parler français. I apologize now for my inability to talk turkey here, for being so in the dark in the city of light, and for imagining your sour breath and slipping dentures, your ancient phlegmy spit. I remember fermez la bouche, not, I think, ever directed at mute me, and ouvrez vos livres comes back in a Georgia accent. We all said so, even the tongue-tied, Danny and Becky and Marcia. The popular kids made A's, I think, now, and were merciless in the halls before and after your class, where I sat in a fog of daydreams and discomfort. I wonder how many times they've been to Paris, if they were ever able to talk Sartre on the Rue de whatever, if they are still, even now, high school cool. Miss Rickshaw, Miss Buckshot, you never showed me even a small kindness, but I suspect you'll forgive me now for a mouthful of English and the occasional inappropriate burst of desperate Italian. So, merci, madame, merci. And forgive me, Mrs. Dunham, for saying in class that my little sister could write this Hemingway crap, for thinking that Big Two-Hearted River was about camping and could use some Byronic boffing and Faulknerian flair. Of course, I didn't really say those things out loud, but I did imply them, preferring showmen to shell-shocked fishermen. Shelley's The Cloud and Byron's Prisoner of Chillon were my touchstones in those days. Forgive me for raining on your professional parade. You were kind to me. A chronically late, horrifically self-conscious teenager said I might be a writer one day. Grazie mille, and ti prego perdonami, Mrs. Dunham, Miss Buckshaw. Rest in peace wherever you are. I turned out all right, I guess, in the end, if this is the end. And under the heading Objection, this next one is entitled Movable. It has 2 epigraphs. It is basically something of a rant in the authorial voice, and it's directed at Hemingway's Movable Feast. I read this as the first thing at a Hemingway conference, to great silence. So 2 epigraphs. Paris is all balled up and they never do straighten it out. That's the boy in the short story, My Old Man. And then the next one is Catherine in Taming of the Shrew. Remove you hence, I knew you at the first, you were immovable. So the piece opens with the statue of Marshal Ney outside the Café des Lilas in Paris. If I hadn't told you that, you wouldn't have a clue what was going on, probably. Swords drawn, him and his bronze friend fiascoing toward their relative glories, Byronic in their Napoleonic escape coaches. Oh, how they needed the cheerful, snug Sylvandom, where the dead were only a little, and even the unpublishable could borrow to their heart's content wars and peaces, logos of Gogol, indeed whole rafts of Russians and buku randy Brits. Always wandering toward Weavergeld and the Hogwarts Press, gliding, poor-mouthing on wife one's resented wampum, two-room flatting, chamber potting, running only cold over radishes and endive, and on good days, apple tarting. We've always been lucky, him hawed, but forgot the flat was full of cockeyed wood kept unknocked. The Seine, unflooded, ergo unlike my limping lonely time there, was, how could it have been, good for fishing. Old men with cane poles, little strips of the finny breed, fried, chewed the mini bone house, hands and feet, so to speak, liter of wine, armpit of pain, and thou, one thou or another. Though irritated by Ez bassooning, later Papa helped haul out the crazy pleas, the gravy plea. So much trueness, sentences true as a good arrow fledged in the friendly esophagus, true as a bitten hand. Mid-60s Paris haunted by ghostly stegosauruses, so many I had not thought spite had undone so many. Double rows of penknives, pocket knives, bread knives, no back left unstabbed. Oh, saw my leg off in the sawmill, Twain might have yelped. Paris present, full of sightseers turning their heads like goats, is hard covered, well bound. Its pictures many and him good, furtively, arrogantly slip between the books, stalling along the river. But how? Ducking tugs, chugging God knows how, what flamboyant effluvia churning near the Louvre. Let's say it, movable feast, let's say it is bitterly condescending satire, veined with Wildean comedy, like fat in a tough steak. If the cultivated reader prefers, these lines may be considered fertilizer. That him was a swell guy, but I don't know. So it seems like when he gets started crocheting, he don't leave nobody nothing. This next poem is dedicated to Sue Hain, who told me this story. And it's under the heading for this reading of Violation. Title is How She Came to Be a Model. Has a date, 8 April 1973. How she came to be a model. The gray doctor ordered her out of her clothes while he watched her, had her walk the length of the chilly room in the fluorescent glare. She was 19. She thought all French doctors did it this way. He touched her here, there, ungloved fingers cold, she said, as the grave, gave her pills he watched her swallow. He stood beside her like a critic before a painting he'd traveled a little too far to see. On the crowded bus, everyone was weeping, the handsome woman's eyeliner running, tears on the fungo of bread under an old man's arm, light pooling in the tangled eyes of lovers. Picasso, the old man said to her, is died. Picasso, he said, between tiny sobs, is died. She was dizzy the rest of the day, dizzy without wine, in her little room with her pretty sketches push-pinned to the walls, things out of focus till nearly midnight. Then he came to her, bald, of course, pot-bellied, sun-damaged breast leathery, hanging flat, but still at first a man all angles, his pupils huge and growing now, black as empty spaces in x-rays, filling her room with the searing blackness of being truly seen, blackening her delicate, bland pictures, making me, she said, finally nothing at all. Under teens, 20s, 30s, three ekphrastic puzzles. This is Brancusi's sculpture, The Kiss. And here's what the poem looks like. You can see it's more or less squared up like the sculpture. It's an unconventional sonnet, which in the process of revision swallowed a conventional sonnet. You can hear the ghost of that first sonnet version, probably. Paris, New York, Philly. Brancusi's The Kiss, 1916. There's a war going on. Brancusi chips at it yet again, number 4, this more simplified shape, this ultimate kiss for John Quinn, this not Rodin. No hip pressed by a man's hand trailing toward bliss. Lips locked, utterly equal, their eyes nearly fuse. They need no noses, they have breasts to press, heads flat and level to host a pair of cocktails. Do not touch, and we do not. Still we toast the smooth, the rough, the limestone baselessness of the artist's bus, this boot box essence. What is it we make tonight? We patronize the arts, we chat and share, we kiss the air. The next poem is under the heading 20s, and it's about this photograph, a response to this photograph, dedicated to my teacher, John Boggs. From left to right, Ford Madox Ford, James Joyce, Ezra Pound, John Quinn. Ford, Joyce, Pound, Quinn is the title. Ford's walrus mouth open, Joyce's mustachioed down, tight, puffy Pound, sleep-deprived, tobaccoless like Quinn, who seems maybe beginning to smile. Quinn of the proper collar, trim, lean, white hanky, corners pocket peeking, the sharpest, warmest, most ironic eyes. How ironic. Fatly garrulous, elegantly disapproving, crankily disheveled, imperiously amused. That is, again, left to right, prose to verse, poor to rich, fat, lean, fattish, lean, prodigal to prudent, producers to consumer. One solicitor's eyebrow raised, but mouth in easy control, no gabbing, no resentment, no smoldering suspicion, no need to speak, at ease with the great and the greatly grumpy. The center empty, a pontormo, JJ and EP V'ing away from each other, overlapped by talker and lawyer, or rather, the closed door makes a cross, whose arms connect J's combed temple, P's bearded cheek. Guess whose hair flares up out of the frame? Guess whose shirt's nowhere near white? The place is his, the year 23, fascist year 1, he'll note much later. Why's his thumb out of his rumpled pocket? What really looks new here? Joyce's haircut, Quinn's Victorian collar. This photograph was taken precisely 88 years ago, as of today. Under the heading, the 30s, Dali wins Wild Eyes competition against Ray is my title. And there's a date, 16 June 1934. They do it for Van Vechten, he's the photographer. They do it for Van Vechten 5 years after the crash. Of course, there's no contest. Ray looks focused, sure, maybe a little angry, but Dali has stepped out of Plato's cave, is the ding en zik, wildness incarnate, something from a dream. Both men necktied, though Ray's in shirt sleeves, as they used to say, Dali sporting a sport coat or suit coat with lapels huge to us, though the Spaniard himself's thin as a fantasy. Mustachioed, hair slicked back, coat hanging a little off Poe-ish, sloped shoulders, that's Edgar Allan Poe. Man Ray is all there, tangible, more man than Ray. Could be a stock trader on the floor in his white dress shirt, nose a little crooked, a boxer's, or American kids with a history of wholesome schoolyard scraps. Dali's shirt is garish for the day, even if the day dawns in Paris. Aggressively striped behind the hatch tie, and he's taller, so much so it's a shock to notice Ray's right shoulders obscured by Dali's left. But isn't big-headed Ray closer to the camera? He leans pugnaciously forward into our 21st century, espresso and rum St. James, let's say, on his breath. Erect Dali's an Egyptian shape, abstracted into the extravagant, behind and not behind, this Man Ray gent, a guy mugging with a celebrity friend who he could never out oddball. So what are you looking at? Have these boys just now laid eyes on Adrienne Fedelin? Settle in. Open up. It's Bloomsday in the city Joyce decamped to in order to glare back at his hometown, to frolic in the great wide world, to stay alive as long as he could. So I won't read all 5 of these Pentamerous Man Ray pieces. That's a self-portrait by Man Ray with his markings for cropping. I'll read this one. Ernest Hemingway, 1928. Mr. Macho's yanking your chain if he tells you this is a war wound. One rum St. James too many and you can bring down heaven's wrath instead of having a healthy flush. St. James of the skylight, let's say, bestowing something like a chandelier on the young fictionist who had not yet said his farewell to arms. In 28, he was still a good sport, laughing with Ray's party guest at his bleeding, then bandaged brow. He hadn't yet become the legend who would prohibit Max Perkins from editing his work and in a movable feast bite every friend who'd helped his career, bullying his way into bathos after 1929, and all his life accident-prone like every self-destroyer. Here, we're pleased to see a calm man gazing off into the distance as probably instructed, but not posing exactly. Yes, maybe smiling just a little, and at his own expense. You can hear him say, "Okay, man, I'll wear that silly hat," thinking perhaps it would obscure the bandage his later self would have hidden or simply lied about. This is one of the most interesting photographs I've ever seen, I think. And the poem about this is in 2 parts. That's Jacqueline Lamba. It's called Still Life with Sleeping Woman, 1935, part 1. Any way you cut it, Man Ray's killed her. Nature mort, his neighbors would say. I say this one's a stilled life. Yes, domain of the inanimate, including animals hunted down and rendered so. Here, one head and one head like what, a ball? Meant to slap back lovely features, pitted skull, a shadow blooming from the blonde, darkness we've been trained by film to see as a pool of blood. A spill here serrated, tousled, unlike the sharp-edged circle smooth beyond, circle of skull shadow. Slashing darkness angling in, hiding the rest of the curves below her collarbones. A spindle upper left, a spindle lower left, the latter pointing, and that fallen spindle crossed by the other one's shadow, knobby vertical just beyond a curb? We're outside? So, knobby shadow, top knob, and a lower one, the spindle lying on what now seems sand. The dark, erect one jabbed in what could be clay, mysterious tools or toys, taking on the Hollywood glamour of murder weapons. I am drawn up toward the blackest black of the far reaches of Man Ray space, top right, where a wedge of darkness pushes down, angling chasm of Éteignez tout. There, cries the fallen spindle, Shakespeare's hapless Laertes, realizing more in 1935 than he ever managed in Queen Bess's waning days. There, look, a death's head. And in its ontological eye, through it, beyond it, spreading, coming down like a blade, the deepest dye of nothing. 2. If you've read Breton and Minotaur, seen Roger André's image of her in Le Coliseum's aquarium, you know Man Ray's flipped her, blacked out her breasts and all her scandalously beautiful body, her shining liquid tapering away, but that time leaving darkness in her invisible loveliness wake. We learn Ray didn't hide a full nakedness, only a bikini top and capri pants, only all of her but the severed head, strip of upper torso, one ambiguous shoulder. Does it help that Paul Hammond guesses the skull like the spindles are from a game, similar to cup and ball, though more obviously Freudian, leaving something a Paris surrealist would find naughty enough to leave lying around in a work of art? Items much in evidence about the time of the French Revolution, perhaps literally in the shadow of the guillotine. In a child's hand, this ball, to be impaled on a stick through a kind of mouth or eye rather than cradled in a cup? It's only a game. How many times have you heard that? There it is again. I'm going to skip the poem that goes with that one. This is called Noir et Blanche. One more? How are we doing on time?
Yeah, maybe this.
Okay, just one more. Okay. Yeah, this is short. Noir et Blanche, 1926. This is an image of the famous Kiki. And the visual echoes and rhymes here produced, well, you'll hear it. Rotate the mask. Don't ask whether she sleeps or feigns. Contrast reigns in this black and white space, face and not face. Take in yang and yin all you can. The hand, the standing gloss, reclining lady lost in a dream or thought. Shady creation, delineation of repose, as everybody knows, is art. Apart from the money wrangle, advert, insert banking angle, consideration. Obligation, shadow on the table, able to echo a logo of the dark, second largest continent. Mark imperial of those who spend and sell this kiki, European ambiguity, this cool jewel tool Man Ray has parked there where mystery meets history, this beauty, slicked hair, and the unseen cameras, economic duty.